Titletown South Florida, brought to you by Orange Bowl. Since 1935, Orange Bowl's service and commitment to South Florida has been as diverse as the residents that live here. Over the past 2 decades, Orange Bowl and its partners have committed more than $40 million to improving the South Florida community through its Orange Bowl Cares initiative. To learn more, visit orangebowl.org. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us on another episode of Titletown South Florida, presented by Orange Bowl. We're back, and it's spring football time. We are starting the football season. We're not starting the real football season until the fall, but if you've been dying to get a little taste of football, now's the time. It's now all across South Florida and Dade and Broward. Teams have started practices as of Monday. The Superpowers are back at it. Central, Chaminade, St. Thomas, you name it. We've visited a couple of those schools this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And let me bring in my co-pilot on this show, as always, David Wilson, who is fresh off his trip to Boston, where he witnessed a miracle on another sport. He witnessed a miracle in hockey.
Yeah,
how was that, man?
It was crazy. It was crazy. It's a shame we don't have a Panthers podcast to break it all down. But Anthony, I'm sure we'll carve out some time on the Heat Check, our Panthers Minute that we do every week. Every week on a select basis. But I'm excited to keep covering that run because it's been really fun, but it's going to dig into my chances to get out to some high school football practice. This is usually one of my favorite times of the year to kind of learn about what's new with these teams. We're going to talk recruiting. It's a big recruiting season right now. And you said it's not real football, but it's the same way I joke about how we got preseason games right in the fall, and half the teams just take them as seriously as any other game, especially if they're playing like a kind of rival or another really good team. Spring's not quite that, I don't think, right? You get a little bit more, there's some more jamborees and stuff. But when we get to the spring games, if it's a really good team playing another really good team and they don't play in the fall, it's going to feel like a real game. So we're going to have some real football.
I mean, a lot of teams, what they're doing now is they're just having these intra-squads.
Yeah, or they're doing, that's true. A lot of teams, there's way more intra-squads than there used to be, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I don't blame them.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. They just feel like it's easier, it's a little safer, play your own guys, that type of thing. And that's what most teams are doing, including some of those teams that we've mentioned. So, like we said, David and I are going to talk a little bit about that. Never too early to talk a little recruiting, a little bit of what's to come in the fall. We have some interviews. I was able to go out to Columbus and Chaminade. Columbus, even at that ungodly hour of 7 a.m. on Monday. They were out there way earlier than that, though. I'm the one that slept in a little bit.
You slept in,
Yeah, but they were up at 5 a.m. They were out there by 5:55. And they're not just doing that today.
No, that's their plan, right? They do that the entire sprint.
I think right up until the last week when they're getting ready to do their scrimmage, their own intra-squad, they're one of the teams doing that. They're going to have it that way. So I talked to a couple people there and talked to Coach Dunn. So we'll bring you that. We're spotlighting them and Chaminade, 2-time defending state champion, 5 out of the last 6. So we'll have some interviews from them. Then we'll salute our players of the week, as we always do, talking about some of those. And obviously the voter polls, to remind you, those are open to vote for them at MiamiHerald.com as many times as you'd like. And also we'll talk a little in between there about some of the main developments beyond football in the spring. The baseball playoffs are here. Regionals are next week. The district round is this week, and we have some big storylines to keep an eye on there. So we'll briefly touch on that. But remember, in addition to watching this show as you are right now on MiamiHerald.com, on YouTube, remember it's available as a podcast. You can catch it on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you like to get the podcatchers to get your pods to you, whether it's in your car or anywhere where you might not be able to watch it. In this case, not really. We don't really have highlights yet because no one's really played yet, so you can hear these as well as watch them. But let's start with those Chaminade Lions, and I'll talk a little bit about the visit I had with them. Not all their key guys are starting out this spring. A little bit. JoJo Trader's a little banged up, has a knee thing right now, but Coach Jones said not serious, but just could keep him out maybe a few days, that type of thing. Jeremiah Smith was a little, under the weather, a little out too. But those two, I mean, when you look at this team, those are 2 of the key guys out of many that are going to come back and promise to make this team pretty much just as explosive or more than they were last year. But I spoke to Coach Jones overall just about what the spring really means, establishing a foundation for the next chapter of this team, running it back as we say, you know, they've done it twice in a row now, like we said before, and can they do it again this year? I mean, they're loaded, and that Class 1M if you really stack it up against the rest, doesn't seem to be like the toughest one. But here's what Coach Jones had to say going into the spring.
Coach, setting the foundation for another season of spring. What do you always consider the main goals from your spring session?
Hey man, the main goal is just every day trying to get better, you know, and eliminate what we've done in the past. Because right now none of that stuff matters. Just starting over, man, seeing what you got, and trying to gel in the spring to get better for the season, man. We got a tough schedule ahead of us, man, and we're looking forward to it. But we got to put some work in to get better.
Yeah, what'd you learn from last season overall? Like, what'd you take from everything?
Every year is different, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, last year ended up being a great year for us. You know, we didn't finish the last game how we wanted, and we learned. You know, every loss is a lesson, man. That's how I take it, and learn from it, man. So, you know, I've been losing for years, one at a time, man, and they life lessons, man. You get better at it. So I'm looking forward to it. My coach is looking forward to it, man, and we're excited about the season. So see what happens, man. You know, they always put you on a pedestal, man, but you gotta go out there and show up, you know.
Yeah. A lot of your offensive playmakers are back, or will be back. That's all. You know, once it gets to the real thing. You know, tell me a little bit about that side of the ball. What you got? You know.
Hey, man, offense is. They've been scared for a while now, man. I don't think this year gonna be any different. You know, defense, we got a few little changes, but we have changes every spring. So I'm looking forward to that. That's the fun part of coaching, is making changes and adapting and seeing how you can elevate from it, you know, and not dwelling on what you did in the past, because that don't matter anymore.
Yeah, your offensive line was huge last year, one of the biggest parts. How does that group kind of fit now this year?
Start over,
right?
and like our line, they're gonna be young this year. They're gonna learn a lot. They're gonna be very good the following 2 years. So, but that's why you coach, man, to build a foundation and build it up and get better.
Yeah, and on defense, how's that squad looking?
We got a lot of guys come back on defense, so I'm excited about it. Those guys are learning, and we can evaluate through spring, man, to see how it goes. So.
Yeah, we're working like off the field like these last few months. How much have you seen out of Cedric?
Oh man, the weight room has been huge for us, man, and mentality. You know, to change the mentality, let them know that we don't just carry over what we've done in the past. Man, it's got to work. Everything's earned.
I think one of the interesting takeaways there, to remind people that maybe they don't remember, so used to Chaminade winning, is they ended on a really bad note out of Las Vegas. I mean, Bishop Gorman took them apart in that game, and two of the big reasons were up front. I mean, Coach talked about, you know, new offensive linemen that have to develop and have to come in and fill the roles left behind by some of those D1 kids that left. And then on the defensive side of the ball, he's excited. He thinks this could be one of the deepest he's had in maybe this entire run, or one of them for sure. But you remember last year, I mean, Bishop Gorman just literally ran all over them. I mean, racked up like 400 yards on them. That's just an atypical performance for a Chaminade team that we've seen over the years, right?
Yeah, I mean, up front, they didn't, you know, they've had some really, really good defensive linemen over the last couple of years, right? Kenyatta Jackson was a Gatorade Player of the Year. Jamal Johnson was like a consistent 10-sack guy for them. They didn't have that like one guy this year, right? They had some good defensive linemen. I think quite a few of them are back. They got to get back to that. Like you said, the offense, they lose a lot on the offensive line, but just those weapons. They've got a great running back in Davion Goss, who's been a player of the year for us in the past. Their quarterback has gotten better and better every year, and I think maybe led the area in touchdown passes last year. Obviously has some really good weapons to throw to. But yeah, that defense, I think just up front, they got exposed a little bit by Bishop Gorman, and not like exposed, right? They were still one of the 10 best teams in the country and cruised to a state title, but their goals are bigger than that, right? They went out to Vegas, and if they won, they were maybe the national champions, and that gap wound up being huge, and they're trying to close that now.
Right. And they've put together another schedule, you know.
Yeah, and they're going to play a schedule where if they run the table, and they'll probably get invited out to one of those national games, that they're going to have every chance to win a national title again.
Absolutely. And one of those you mentioned, Davion Goss, I got a chance to talk to him a little bit. Look how big he looks now as you see this interview.
Davion, tell me just the off season, how much work have you guys put in, and how did it go these last few months getting ready to start over again?
The off season went good as far as the weight room. Some of the guys on the track, we got to move faster, more stronger, and we meshing better as a team this year.
You look bigger, man. Did you put on some weight or
Yeah, a little bit.
a little extra muscle? Do you feel stronger when you're out there, making moves, that kind of thing?
Yes, Coach Jay, he got a good weight program. He's helping me get more explosive, move faster, so I feel it on the field.
Yeah. I mean, spring kind of just started, but I know you've been out there. You've been playing some 7-on-7s this offseason.
Not really.
It's okay. But in training, have you felt like just more speed, better cuts? Where do you feel like?
Yeah, I feel more explosive this year, more flexible. Just all around, I feel like a better running back.
How much did you learn from last year? I know the game at the end kind of a little bit of a fire for you guys coming into this season. How much did you take from that? How much motivation is it for this year?
What I learned from last year was each and every game you got to come in more prepared than the other team, more physical and dominate.
Cedric and these guys having the same kind of group together, how much does that help? You guys know each other so well.
That helps a lot because the chemistry already there, and we already know how to play as a team. So now all we got to do is go out there and execute.
It sounds like on the other side, the defense, this could be one of the best defenses you've had since you've been here, at least what they're saying. What have you seen out of those guys?
The defense, they flying around with the ball. They playing as one group, and they just communicating, and they just playing ball.
How about for you college-wise, where are you at right now?
Right now, I'm committed to North Carolina.
South Carolina. Tell me about that opportunity. What do you think about the Tar Heels?
It's a good opportunity. Coach Matt Brown, Coach Ford, and the rest of the coaching staff. Rick Fowler's team. It's a well good team. Hoping for a lot of fun.
Apologies for a little bit of that windy.
Always windy out there.
Always windy at Chaminade for some reason. But
you're right close to the water there in Hollywood.
Right. Exactly, but Davion Goss committed to North Carolina this offseason.
Yep.
So big back that they're going to the ACC, and not far away from him, Cedric Bailey, quarterback, committed to NC State. So two guys going to the ACC from Chaminade, and I did get a chance to talk to Cedric as well. He's an interesting one because he's been so prolific these last couple of years, but he's starting to improve even more at the position. You could tell he actually also. He's always been very tall, skinny. He looked a little bit like his body's starting to grow out a little bit. Here's an interview with him.
So Cedric, tell me a little bit about your off season. How's it been? How much work have you guys been putting in? Tell us a little bit about that.
I had a hard off season. That's why I like it, so I can get better. I've been working real hard this off season, putting in the work. So it takes time and effort. So this off season was my best off season. I'm gonna show you guys what I got this year.
Where do you feel like you got better the most? Like what areas?
Mechanic wise, then the same throughout my whole practice. When I'm fatigued, I stay the same with my mechanic. So just about fighting the fatigue. So that's all I did this off season at work.
Did you add on any weight? Did you get a little stronger?
I got bigger. I gained a little bit of pounds, but I also been running track, so I'm trying to keep my speed too. So I'm working on get my fatigue right, and I'm running track too. So I lost a little weight, so it's all right.
Do you feel it like when you're moving around and
Yeah. Of course, when we came back to practice, I felt a lot looser, a lot faster. So it worked out perfect.
To get most of the same guys on offense, how big is the help? You know them so well.
That's really big because we know each other. We got the connection. Everything should be a breeze. We should be on point with everything. So.
Yeah. How much did the end of last season, even though you guys won the state championship, I know that last game probably lit a fire for you guys.
It hurt, yeah. So we working hard. We always think about that game. We don't like losing. So that's just us. We got that competitive attitude. So this year we're gonna come back better. Stronger. We want everybody.
What's your goal for the next 3-4 weeks or here in spring?
Just get better day by day, one day at a time. Take it slowly.
Well, Chaminade will start that schedule against a team you're familiar with, David. St. Francis of Maryland is going to be in the Broward Showcase, one of the many clashes between Broward national powerhouses against some from around the country. And I'm interested to see what kind of jump Bailey takes because, he has all these weapons around him. So we kind of take for granted what the kid can do. But I'm interested in seeing how much he's developed over the offseason.
Yeah, I always think I remember I was out at a South Florida Express tryout a couple of years ago when he was still, I don't know, maybe it was coming after his sophomore year. So he was good. Like, you could tell he was going to be good. I think it was his first year as a starter there, but he was still super skinny. Still, like, you wondered how much it was just like he's really tall and how much is he an interesting recruit because of his size and the fact that he's propped up by some really good weapons. And the practice was over, and I think he was out there with his dad, and he was just like for half an hour at least after the practice was still just like going through his drops. You could tell he had that work ethic. And last year, I think he proved, again, really, really good weapons, maybe the best wide receiver tandem in the country with Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader. But like, you don't throw 40, I don't know, what did he finish with? 40, I think it was over 45 touchdowns.
4,500 yards, yeah. Touchdowns too.
Yeah, and 40, yeah, like you don't do that by accident. Like you can't just ride 2 wide receivers to do that. You gotta be pretty good. And I think he proved last year that he is, we've talked a lot on this show about how the kind of the growth of the quarterback position in South Florida. And in some ways, when you talk about like who's got the longest term ceiling, like NFL type ceiling, I'm not saying he's an NFL player, but he's got the frame too, right? Mm-hmm. So many of the great quarterbacks we talk about are smaller guys who end up having to go to smaller schools. Kewan Jenkins going to FIU, Colin Hurst going to Presbyterian. Cedric Bailey has the production, the ability, and like the physical tools that you look for. So he's a really, really interesting, fascinating quarterback, and a guy we haven't seen a guy necessarily like him come through South Florida in a little while.
You can't miss him at practice either. I was looking at him across the field. He's like 2 or 3
inches. The tallest guy on the team, I think.
By far. No, not even by a little bit. Like he's 2-3 inches
bigger
taller
than the linemen. I mean, the linemen are bigger, but I think he's taller than any of those linemen they have too.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, and I think maybe too also with Jeremiah not there at practice today, that also too, because he's kind of tall receiver. Yep. But no, he's towering over everybody. But Chaminade, I mean, going back to the schedule, the game I told you that's the starter on Saturday, August 26th. But look at this gauntlet to start the first 7 weeks for them. Cardinal Gibbons after that, Virgin Catholic, another powerhouse from up north, American Heritage, Central. We finally, a year late, but we got the Central Chaminade game, and then Coconut Creek, and then Dillard's. From what I hear, has lost some kids, and they're going a coaching change, but it's still Dillard. They'll still have talent. But those first 7. Right away, those are going to challenge them. If 1M is not, it's the weakest probably of the 4 classes in terms of the rest of the field, at least they might play like in the early rounds of the playoffs. But those first 7 are going to challenge them and put them, like you said before, in position to potentially contend again for a national championship or pretty close. So transitioning now, we're going to talk a little bit about the players of the week, as we mentioned before. Here's the nominees we have in date. Albert Bell, the name just like the great Hall of Famer baseball player. Well, he hit like it last week, 2 3-run home runs and 8 RBI. A big win for Southwest High over Miami Westminster Christian. And then Luis Martinez over at Braddock for baseball also had a good week, 7 for 14, 6 RBI, led the Bulldogs to 3 wins. The Bulldogs in that tough district with Columbus, but looking like they could sneak through to regionals. Some tennis state champions. Brennan Chow got to the overall singles finals before he lost, but he won a double state title. And Ami Osori of Palmetto won an overall girls singles state title. First one to do so in Palmetto's history. And that's saying something because the Panthers have been really good at tennis for a long time. We've also got boys volleyball. Jesus Montez of Matter Lakes had a combined 34 kills and 27 digs to lead the Bears to a pair of wins. Matter Lakes 22-2 in volleyball. Congratulations to them. And then in Broward, Coral Springs Charter is undefeated with 2 ties, so they're looking like they could get back to winning a state championship. It's been a few years, actually, for them since that 5-in-a-row run that they had. Stephanie Basso was the tournament MVP at the BCAA championship, had 2 home runs in the final. A couple of baseball players, Anthony Quigley at Taravella, who went 2 for 3 with a double and 2 RBI and hit a home run and struck out 10 in a win over MacArthur. And Tug Hollinsworth, son of Todd Hollinsworth, former baseball player and Marlins announcer, he had a big week, 3 for 4 with a home run and a win over Pines Charter. And Jade Shakir at Dillard for girls track and field. We're getting closer to the state meet. And she swept the discus, shot put, and javelin titles at the district finals for Dillard. So go ahead and vote for those kids, whoever you feel like might be the best player of the week. And now I'm going to go back in time, actually, to the morning of Monday when went out to Columbus. The Explorers they've been here before, but COVID kind of ruined their chance did ruin their chance to defend their state title the first time that they won it. But this year, they're coming off that dramatic win where they ran they called it the Explorer, the Explorer Special, kind of like the Philly Special, and they beat up Popka at the last minute. Alberto Mendoza, their quarterback, is back. He spearheads a talented offense that's bringing back, similar to Chaminade. They have to rebuild their offensive line, but they do bring back a lot of the weapons as far as wide receiver talent, like Jose Leon, Daryl Harper is back, and they're loaded on that part of it. So I talked to Alberto just about coming back and having those guys. I mean, the last time we saw him, he was catching that touchdown pass to win the state title. Here he is now.
All right, Alberto, obviously you're coming off a tremendous season, winning a state championship. What was kind of the mindset this off season? You know, now obviously you enjoy it for a while and now back to work, but tell me a little bit about your mindset going in now.
It's about, my whole offseason was about not getting complacent because we won it all, but I want to go back again. And I got on all my guys and they helped get on me, and we're just not getting complacent. That's the biggest thing right now. We're still working hard, because we're going to have a big target on our back and everyone's going to want to beat us. So we got to work that much harder to go back to back.
How was your off season? Like, what did you do? What you kind of work on?
It was great. I gained around like 7 pounds, which is great. And I threw the ball, lifted a lot of lifting, and a lot of mental stuff, big quarterback mental stuff. So it's been great.
Yeah, coach says the ball's got a little more zip out of your passes so far. Is that why? Because of all the training you did, or?
Yeah, I put on weight, and then I also learned how to use new muscles with my brother, and we've been training together, so it's been great.
Where do you feel playing the position you've improved the most? What have you learned in the last few months?
I think I've improved the most in my mental game, which is the biggest part of being a quarterback, about making reads, processing information. That's the biggest thing. I know we're good with football.
Did you play in any, did you participate in any camps, anything this season, I mean?
No, I did one 7-on-7 tournament. That was about it.
Oh, okay.
I just lifted and worked with my guys.
Okay. Tell me about those guys, like the offense this year. How does it look so far?
Obviously, it's great. We're having our offensive linemen step up from last year. We have our guys graduating, but our guys are going to do great. They're all stepping up. They're working hard right now. They're getting that extra work, so I'm excited for them. And our receiving core is crazy. We have Reggie Blackburn, Jose Leon, Big Man, Rocco Tristan. So it's going to be really good. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I was going to say that having a lot of those guys you're familiar with back has got to help. You got that chemistry already. It's just kind of maybe getting the timing back and done. Right?
Yeah, they're all going to get open for me, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, the defensive side of the ball, going against those guys. I know it's early, but how excited are you to go against a defense that's stacked up front the way they?
I'm really excited. They're the best defense in South Florida by far.
Yeah.
Our defensive line is great. Our linebackers, our DBs they're great. So just being able to go against them every single day is just making me better. And it's just a great opportunity for me.
Cool. And I know, like you say, it's not like so much about defending it, but trying to win another one. But this school hasn't had that too often. So going in this season, that's got to be something interesting and some motivation, I'm sure, to kind of not let that go.
Yeah, 100%. Right now it's just about training and getting our guys back on it. So I'm really excited. I really want to get the school back-to-back championship, just like basketball did this year. So I want to be the first quarterback to get back-to-back.
And that's the whole thing with Columbus is we're not used to them being the defending champions. They've gotten close a few times, and we said they couldn't do it in 2020 because they could only compete for the Tri-County title. But this team may have one of the best defenses I've seen them have in a long, long time. TJ Capers isn't back on the field yet, still kind of recovering from that injury he had late last season and the surgery he had, but he will be fine, according to Coach Dunn, for the season. And I'm not sure, he may even participate a little bit later in the spring, but right now, at least not at the start, but he's there. Dylan Stevenson is moving to linebacker from what Coach Dunn told me, so he's going to be an impact there. Dalen Russell will be in there as well, as he mentioned there. And of course, having Willis McGahee playing either one, they may go to some 3-man fronts, they may go to some 4-man fronts, but he's going to make an impact however you slice it. This could be one of the best defenses the Columbus has had in a long, long time, if ever.
Yeah, I mean, they're just that front seven is spectacular. I mean, those are like those guys are all Division I guys. TJ Capers already committed to Louisville. Dalen Russell was our defensive player of the year last year. And then you look at Willis McGahee, who was part of a really good Palmetto defense last year. Columbus just seems like they can always like kind of pluck defensive backs out of thin air. They've always got safeties who are a lot of times they're 3 or 4 year contributors and then like kind of become the leader of the defense as a senior. So, there's a lot of competition for best defense in Florida, which is what Alberto said he thinks they are. But they got a case. I mean, right? Central, Chaminade, like there's a lot of good teams, but they've got a great quarterback and they're going to be able to win with defense too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like normally, I'd probably be like, of course he's going to say that because he's packing up his boys, but it's not super
not
far-fetched
crazy.
because I think it does stack up this year for sure, pound for pound. And I think that part of it and the secondary will be a key too because they lost Amir Foster, but they have a few guys coming back, Jansen Wallace, Jeffrey Bandy, and a couple others there that are going to compete for spots and will fill in those roles, of course. The interesting one to me though is not just the offensive line, but Cedric Irvin was such a focal point of what they did on offense too. Yeah. So finding that replacement too. I mean, Coach Dunn didn't want to go into too many names. He did mention a junior, Chaminade-Madonna, is the guy at least that comes back with the most snaps at that spot in games. And he's got a shot at, carving himself a pretty good role going forward. But there's others that
son of Miami cornerbacks coach Chaminade-Madonna. So
there you go.
Another Canes connection there.
That's right. And Andrew Swayze, who got, as always, gets a lot of shout outs, former Hurricane connection there, getting, the Explorers strong. We know that wellness center, that strength and conditioning room that they have is, very few like it in these parts. But here's Coach Dunn talking overall about the start of the spring and the outlook for his team.
Coach, good day one, like you said. Just talking about being back. This team accomplished something big last year, obviously, and how was the off season? How's the preparation for this now been so far?
It's been great. We kind of, we've preached to our guys that, right now we haven't won a thing, and we're not big on defending anything. It's, this team's got to earn everything that they get, and we felt we've had a really good offseason in the weight room. And Coach Swayze does a great job each year with our guys, and I thought we had a real good first day, guys running around, some good things and some bad things, and we'll take a look at the film and make some corrections. But, I like our attitude on day one most importantly.
Yeah, on the defensive side, you bring back a lot of experience there. Can you talk a little bit about just the progress you've seen on those guys?
Yeah, it's having, Dylan Stevenson's, going from defensive line to linebacker, so that's kind of something we were really excited about this spring. Having Dalen Russell back and Rob Williams back up front, guys like that, and Hector Chavez who had about 900 tackles in the state championship game. Having him back is really going to bolster our defense, and we got a good experience in our secondary with Jansen Wallace and Jeff Bandy back at corner. Jason Ibarra, started at safety for us last year. We'll probably have Cam Pineda, jump into the other safety spot, or James Orange, filling where Amir Foster, left off from last year. So we got a few holes to fill on defense, but a lot less than we do on offense.
Mm-hmm. On offense, that side, you do bring a lot of the skill guys back, including Mendoza, right there at quarterback. I mean, tell me a little bit about that side and how that's kind of.
I think he's really worked hard in the offseason. The velocity's increased on his passes. I feel really good about our receiving core with Dariel Harper, Jose Leon, J.J. Gomez, and Benjamin Blackburn at tight end. The spots that are. It's going to be interesting to see who fills them is going to be our offensive line and running back spot. Chaminade-Madonna is the most experienced running back we have, and Alex George played a good amount of left tackle for us, and Blake Brewer started every single game for all 15 games for us at right guard. But besides that, the rest of the whole line is going to be some new guys.
Yeah, not a lot coming in from outside, but I know Willis McGahee is a big name that did. What kind of impact are you expecting him to make on that side of the ball?
He's a kid who really loves football, works hard. Also runs track for us right now in Columbus, so he's got some legit track times. Big physical young man that's going to run around and make some plays for us. Same thing, we're kind of doing what we did with Dylan is, we're trying him and some linebacker as well. Makes us more versatile on defense. Anytime we feel we can switch from a 3-man front to a 4-man front without changing personnel, makes our defense that much more versatile. And I think it's tougher for offenses to game plan against.
Every coach will say health, of course, but what do you see as the biggest key for a successful spring? You come out of this a few weeks from now. Where would you say would be you could consider it a success overall?
I think us is I'm pretty blunt. It's going to be the development of our run game on offense because we just Cedric Irvin was an unbelievable back. Is headed to Stanford, and 4 out of the 5 starters are kind of the offensive line. So I think if those guys can develop and show that they're ready to play at the level we need them to, that'll be good. I think on defense, we're doing a little bit of the 3-man front and mixing that with the 4-man front. How our guys adjust to that, and especially the guys who last year played with their hand on the ground, how they adjust to playing with their hand, just standing up on 2 feet.
A few schools went out there this morning, before the sun came up. FIU was out there, Stanford was out there. Speaking of Stanford, that got Cedric Irvin last year, so they're mining for more talent out of the Explorers there. And I cannot believe it. Shame on me for not naming Hector Chavez. I mean,
I
come
know.
on. What else did the kid have to do at State last year?
Literally, I
player
think
of the week.
20 plus tackles. I don't
Yeah.
remember the exact number, but every single play.
He's going to probably follow up with another big year on that defensive side for sure. But yeah, catch the Explorers. I mean, we're talking about the schedule for Chaminade. I mean, right off the bat, Columbus this year. Check this one out. Clearwater Academy International, the big powerhouse independent team from up there. Columbus is going to go visit them up there from the looks of it, according to Max Preps. And they're going to go in week 3, team they beat at home last year. This time it's their turn to go up to Tampa to take on Jesuit, who is always competitive, always one of the better teams in the state overall. And then, of course, the rivalry game with Palmetto, maybe one of 2. Northwestern is on the schedule again. Homestead coming off a big year. I'm sure they're still going to be in the fight. And the schedule's not complete yet, but those are some of the main ones that stick out. And Columbus, maybe not a lot of those national powerhouses like some other teams, but a challenging schedule nonetheless as they try to repeat in Class 4M. Let's see. I mean, we'll see what the chances are for the Explorers, right?
Yeah, I mean, they got a great chance. 4M, as we said last week, is probably not the most competitive, but it was. It took them to overtime. Every other game was pretty much a blowout. I guess Homestead St. Thomas was pretty close for a little while before St. Thomas kind of pulled away at the end. But yeah, there's a lot of good central. It's kind of the one area where I think teams from outside of South Florida have a shot, right? In 2M, it's the inner city Miami schools for the most part. 3M, it's tough for anyone to take down St. Thomas, and Homestead's probably the second best team. 1M at Chaminade, and then a giant drop-off. 4M, you've got those Central Florida teams. You got some Jacksonville teams, but especially those Central Florida teams. Apopka got their last year. It's kind of the one where you've got obviously tough teams down here, but even that state title game, if you get there, it's still going to be tough for you. It could be your toughest test.
Yeah, it always seems like 80% likely you're going to have like the Dade or the Dade or Broward versus Orlando final in 4M every year, or Apopka or whoever comes out of that area. But Western in the mix too. I mean, we'll get to them. Yeah, we'll get to them later in the spring. But they sound like they reloaded too, and the injury to Hurst last year at the end really hurt.
They were kind of coming on at the right time. It seemed like, and then just injuries got to them and.
Yeah, real shame because they seem to have reloaded in a few spots, but I mean they'll be in the mix, and we'll see. But like we said before, a few things too beyond football. We said districts this week for baseball, regionals coming after that. I mean, David, I'm interested to see if this Stoneman Douglas team can pull this off. I mean, 22-0 now, and I don't know if you knew their winning streak now over 40. I believe it's at 42 right now, or close to 42 or 43. Going into, as of this recording, longest winning streak in the nation right now, according to our buddy Dave Brousseau, who likes to do his research, told me it's not just statewide, but it's nationwide. And the state record was set by Clearwater Calvary Christian. It's in the 60s, I believe. So they wouldn't get it this year, but if they did pull this off, who's to say they don't keep going? I mean, this team is on back-to-back national titles, 40-something wins in a row. And in baseball, as we well know, it's
really hard to win 20 games in a row.
Yeah. I mean, any random day you could have something could go completely haywire. A pitcher could be way off.
In Moneyball, they treat it like it's the World Series when they won 20 games in a row.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's a credit to them that they've stayed this consistent, especially a team with so much talent. You could have a lot of me, and a lot of egos on there, but they've really gelled well and they continue to do it. So they're just one of many storylines. Columbus themselves are going to be probably their main obstacle come the regional finals if both teams get there, and plenty of others. Archbishop McCarthy, American Heritage fighting it out in Class 5A there. Another good storyline to follow. Doral trying to repeat, Miami Christian trying to repeat. So we'll have a little more for those of you that have watched us for the baseball side of it. I know we're going football heavy now, but we'll dip in a little bit into the baseball playoffs as well. But next week, let's see if we can get out to a few more schools.
Yeah, we hit 2 of the defending champs this week. I feel like we might have to try to hit on the other 2 next week.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That we do our first 2 defending champs, and then we we hit some of these contenders, some of the more intriguing teams that we've mentioned leading up to this. The New Orleans and Westerns of the world that
there's some interesting stories out there. Some teams really like trying to get back to, we talked about it last week, but trying to get back to that elite level, back to title contention. So there's some
Right.
good stories beyond just the teams that you can kind of pencil into a regional final.
So when David's done going back and forth from Canada, he'll try to get out to some of these with me as well. So we'll have that for you. But as always, everybody, thank you for joining us here on Titletown South Florida, presented by Orange Bowl. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, take care and thanks for watching. Titletown South Florida, brought to you by Orange Bowl. Since 1935, Orange Bowl's service and commitment to South Florida has been as diverse as the residents that live here. Over the past 2 decades, Orange Bowl and its partners have committed more than $40 million to improving the South Florida community through its Orange Bowl Cares initiative. To learn more, visit orangebowl.org.